Eugenie Sage.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Pleased to take a short call on the Canterbury Property Boundaries and Related Matters Bill. The first time I came into contact with any surveying was actually in Hokitika, in the Lands and Survey offices there, and there was a dusty storeroom and it had the notebooks of Charlie Douglas, or Mr Explorer Douglas, who in the late 1860s, 70s and 80s and was roaming and mapping South Westland, and he was employed by the Survey Department, I think, through the 1880s and early 1890s. And his notebooks of those surveys included some absolutely beautiful watercolours where he was not only mapping but just sort of describing the areas as well. So that was my first exposure to surveying. The matters in this bill are slightly more technical. We did learn the difference, or I learned the difference between accretion, where legal boundaries in relation to land and water move gradually, and avulsion, which is a much more sudden movement. But this is a very practical bill because, as others have said, the significant number of properties in Canterbury which were affected by the earthquake, some 135,000 properties moved, but most of those were within the tolerance, and there are about 11,000 which moved by more than 20 centimetres. And there was some confusion. There were guidelines that Land Information New Zealand put out. Those surveyors who were working on the ground, some of them were putting practical interpretation and ensuring that boundaries actually did move with the land, as most people would expect. But the guidance was didn't clarify the situation, so it is appropriate that we've had a bill through the Parliament that actually makes it clear that boundaries, rather than being fixed as they are in the law, rather than being where the survey mark is, where the pegs are, if they have moved more than that tolerance of 20 centimetres, that the boundaries go with the land movement. And I think the bill, as others have noted, is also providing more certainty to people in Canterbury because it's ensuring that those surveys that were done in that interim period, where they were approved by the Surveyor General, those surveys, the boundaries will stay where they were surveyed there. And I think there were some 3,500 of those. So people can continue to rely on the surveys that were done there. Mr Speaker, there were 11 submissions, and 3 of the organisations that made submissions were professional organisations representing surveyors, and the major one of those, the New Zealand Institute of Surveyors, which involves some 1,300 professionals, was supportive of the bill. And I think there were concerns raised around a dispute resolution process, and yes, the Select Committee has not amended the bill to implement that, and has instead said that people have to have recourse to the provisions in the Property Law Act, and that may involve going to court. And there is also provision for compensation, of course, in the Land Transfer Act, which bill reforming that Act is currently before the Government Administration Select Committee, ably chaired by Ruth Dyson, and there's been quite a few submissions around those provisions around compensation, which may benefit from clarification in that separate Select Committee process. But the bill is a sensible one. The Green Party is supporting it, and we hope that it progresses promptly through the Parliament. Thank you.